Oh, good to see you, man. Good to see you
too.
Yo, we're in, it's 2 a.m. It's
2 a.m.
2:14 in the morning right now. We're in Bedford style.
Skin
Bed
watches are giving us the time. And it's 2 a.m.
2 a.m. in the morning. Why are we here? Why we're at the Billy Holliday Theatre, renovated.
Where Biggie grew up.
Yeah, where Biggie grew up. What brought Omari Hardwick to this location right here?
Man, a lot of work. So much hard work and process. You know, nobody understands the word process more than you, James. And this is one of those, I guess, as the title of the show would have it, it's called Hero, with a big O, humbly, I guess, honoring my journey, one man's work in progress. And what it is a culmination of my efforts in music for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And my journey, just my life journey up to this point, which ironically I would have to say a lot of that stuff is found in the music.
Yeah.
I started doing music the week that King Muhammad Ali passed away. So we're a week away from that.
Yeah.
We're almost at the 2-year mark, brother, without even me thinking about it. We're embarking upon this show, perhaps subconsciously honoring or paying homage to Muhammad. There's even a moment during our show where the projector boasts, you know, the beautiful, I'm pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The beautiful image of the warrior himself, the king of all kings, the activist of all activists, the butterfly of all butterflies, and the bee of all bees, and the infamous, again, formerly known as Cassius Clay, but we loved and say goodbye to him as Muhammad Ali. And so we are full circle 2 years around, and here we are. I started the music journey, and the music journey has taken me up and down and in and out of so many studios, from incredible studios in LA. I started in the house of Josiah Bell. Found myself in studios with Daniel Crawford, who's the incredible pianist and producer, who comes under the auspices or under the guise of the legendary Jazzy Jeff over in Philly and Delaware, respectively, and people like Robert Glasper, who eventually, Stale Soiree, a dear friend, who brought Robert Glasper to the project.
Right.
And then Eric Roberson was already on the project, already committed his time. And all of these people I'm naming are exec producers. And we in that list of exec producer with, or legendary exec producer with the infamous, iconic of all icons, Raphael Sadiq, and then myself and Vex Madison. We threw our hats in the ring and we became exec producers of this musical project. So I had an inkling that I was going to do a one-man show at one point in my life. It really was my better parts at home. Jay, who kept telling me, as much as she told me I needed to do power, as much as she said I needed to embrace my power, perhaps pun intended. And even that crap called sex symbol or whatever that is, you know, she really tried to persuade me, talk about a secure woman, to really pursue that, and this was no different. She wanted me to do a one-man show, and for a long time I felt it was going to happen, but I didn't know in what form, fashion, or format it would happen. And I think there's no greater way for it to happen than music.
Right. As
I've been, you know, really pouring myself in my pain and all of these things, you know, I almost feel like a football player who enjoys basketball more, if that's analogous to being this actor who perhaps enjoys music more. And the music, I think, it was already in me, but I got so many incredible, iconic collaborators, not just producers, but artists, fellow artists, musicians, vocalists, rappers, MCs that are on this project with me, and they've all given me that nod, you know, when they look at you and they expect Ghost to walk in the studio, and what leaves them with their mouths dropped perhaps is not only not Ghost, it's Omari, but it's not only Omari the actor, it's Omari the musician.
Right. Did you?
As we feel the rumble.
Right. Of the rumble, right?
Oh man, that's so cool.
Did you have any reservation about how transparent, how vulnerable you would be in this one-man show?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I sure did, because I think, you know, it's interesting, James. You're going to go through this one day when you become a father, and a great father you're going to be. I knew that 10 years ago when I met you, but I think there are moments that you don't necessarily feel hesitant in terms of showing that vulnerability as it pertains to your kids. If it's directed to the kids.
Right.
You know, and so a lot of people would say that we are a new generation of cool parent, or even better stated, cool fathers, right?
Right.
We're tattoo clad,
Right.
stroller pushing,
Right.
not working
In shape. Right.
shape.
Look, still busting my push-ups out.
You know what I
right?
mean? And then making our children do push-ups instead of spanking them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're a different kind of father. We have a different sex appeal, dare I say. But in reality, what makes us, I would imagine, the sexiest is that we're figuring out how to be vulnerable in front of our kids.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not necessarily denote that we figured out how to be vulnerable in front of the rest of the world.
Right.
So I tend to think when I'm on set, and I started in theater. You know, my foundation is stage in New York, right here, and then respectively Chicago and Detroit and Philly and DC, and you know, repertoire theater and regional theater and off Broadway, 74th and Beacon, or 74th and Broadway, the Beacon Theater, and then the Fox in Atlanta. So I know the stage, but in terms of the comfort level that I now live in, that I put food on the table. Activating that button that I activate is that of small screen, obviously, and big screen. You know, I'm a film actor at this point and a TV actor, and so the camera's so close to you that as long as you feel like you're governed or protected by the crew and the team of those on set, you don't feel so hesitant about being vulnerable once they say action. But theater is live. It's what always made it so different. It's live, and so I did think about, you know, the fact that people were going to watch me transition between laughter, between pain,
It's roller coaster.
now I'm crying.
Right.
Oh shit, now I'm
Right.
back to laughter.
Right.
Like, you're really watching the gamut of emotions within a nanosecond on stage. And
Right.
so, you know, and I wonder sometimes if the fan base, those that were obviously in the last week to 2 weeks humbling me with how fast they went and purchased tickets to watch this show, sometimes I wonder if they had reservations.
Mm-hmm.
If they really wanted to see me on stage mess up.
Right.
If it wasn't necessarily about watching me win, but if they could really find out a secret, whatever secret that was. So I wonder if not only I had reservations, but perhaps if they had them too.
And then I noticed how you talked about when you walk into the studio and you're not sure how you're going to be received. Did you find it difficult exposing your musicality to other artists as far as, you know, for the first time? Like did you in doing so, did you receive any, I guess, just like, you know, like, what is this guy doing? What does he think? Another actor crossing over, you know what I'm saying? Did you have that issue?
No, I didn't really.
I mean, because I know a lot of people in the industry know you as an artist, know you as a poet, well-rounded. But for those that, like you said, only knew you as Ghost, and
Like-
you're coming in there saying, hey, I want to do this.
Exactly. And as you said, the musicality
Yeah.
that you speak to, I think you're correct in that. I think you're correct, James, in saying they knew you all as a poet,
Right.
and they've embraced that part of you.
Yeah.
Because on Instagram, you can drop a piece for us all, and we're left to go, oh, he's truly a poet. And perhaps sometimes you can almost follow the rhythm, even in terms of what I dropped, that is not audible, right? But it's just legible. You can
Right,
only
right.
you can only see it on page. Or
Oh, trust me.
on page.
Like you'll write a post, and my mother will text me. She was like, "That Omari's pretty deep." And I'm like, "Yeah, ma, yeah. He's more than just Ghost."
Oh man. So I think I did a good job of jumping into a hobby that, as you said, my foot or perhaps both feet were already about. And if we believe, I can hear Stevie Wonder now, or Donny Hathaway, or Dizzy Gillespie, or B.B. King. I can hear all of the great artists, Wynton Marsalis, the whole Marsalis family, all the way over to Coltrane, and obviously the incredible Miles Davis included. I can hear Gil Scott-Heron in this answer when I say to you that all of those genres of music that raise not just the generation of fan who are looking at this interview most, um, but also their parents, you know, who at times are closer to my age. If my fan base extends from 14-year-old teenagers to their great-grandparents being the better parts of 90 years old, which is a pretty humbling fan base. I think I extend that far because of different roles I played, namely Ghost. But in reality, I think when I walked into those studios, I hear the voices of all of those people I just named saying, the birth is the word. I mean, I should include God in that, James, right? God would say the word was first. Perhaps even before light, they say the first thing God created was wisdom. So if my mother and pops, you know, raised me to believe anything, it was that the gifts that I did possess, versus my siblings who all possessed very sound and very substantial gifts, the one that stood out to my mother and father most with me was the power of word, that I had a level of wisdom that seemed to definitely far exceed my age, right? That's that old soul saying that comes to play. He's an old soul, 8 years old one week, but 88 years old the next week. And so I think when I walked in those studios, I felt the old soul would come in, and the artists that I selected to work with, who all said yes, by the way, pretty freaking amazing. There was only 5 people that I didn't get.
When Ghost
and
sent you a text.
Yeah, I wondered
You know what
about
I'm saying?
that. That was the only thing. See, I did wonder. I was like, I would go home and I would talk to Jay about it. I'd be like, are they just trying to rock with Ghost? And perhaps they're still trying to hang on to a little bit of relevance, particularly if the artist was really rocking at one point and not rocking now presently.
Exactly.
But they were also some of my favorite artists, you know? And so I wanted to really introduce a lot of the artists that I grew up on or that I rocked to when I was in college. I wanted to introduce them to that younger faction of fan base that I speak about, that teenage group that might not really know about a Melanie Fiona.
Right.
That might not really be up on Method Man and how incredible he was.
I mean, and the cool thing about that is when you have the final product, everybody involved is surprised at the outcome.
I think so.
Everybody benefits.
Everybody benefits.
That goes from their part, your part, and the listener.
Absolutely.
You know, because they're exposed to a different side of you.
Absolutely.
They're exposed to the artist that you're
That's right.
collabing with.
That's
so
right.
everybody benefits.
And
with
they were
that.
all writers. That was cool, James.
Yeah.
Even in terms of working with Rotimi Akanosha, who doubles obviously as my castmate on Power,
Right.
playing Dre. That bad man Dre. As this bad man Ghost hunts him down or tries to figure out what his thing is, in real life, Omari did not have to hunt down Rotimi as it pertained to music. He actually was one of the ones that ushered in my sound.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me along with Vex capture that. A guy named Rush as well, David Rush, really helped me figure out the sound. I mean, Tank was one of the first artists that said yes, and then I got everybody from Layla Hathaway to Anthony Hamilton, again 50 Cent,
Nice.
Fab.
Nice.
God, I got so many people. Trans Lee, the young, incredible young gun from Alabama who's been signed to Grand Hustler by T.I. Jacob Banks from the other side of the pond, the brilliant Jacob Banks. Jordan Bratton, Tattoo, who no one knew about. Danny, who goes by Only for the Cool. All of these people that are not even known yet. They all jumped on board, man. Again, Robert Glasper, Raphael Sadiq, Evan Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people forget about the fact that Evan Ross is as musical as his mother, that being Diana Ross. So, Jordan Banks. I had so many people that just said, yeah, oh, you got me, whatever you need, you fully got me. All the way to South Africa. I worked with Ezra Gobler, who's this incredible beat maker, who's like a phenomenal producer, but a better human being. And Nasty C, who I refuse to call Nasty as a young brown man in America or in the continent of Africa, so I call him King Nas, but he brought me Gobbler. And the list goes on and on. You know, I've worked with Ro James now, worked with Luke James, Common.
Nice.
It's just pretty amazing, man, that they all said this little dusty boy from Decatur was worthwhile. In terms of coming to their world of music, man, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you just mentioned Common, and then that's a rapper,
Yeah.
a musician crossing over into...
But a poet too.
No, of course. But
yeah.
rap, is poetry, of course. But
especially for him, right?
Exactly.
Guys like him, Mos, Tariq,
exactly.
those guys are poets.
Very,
Talib, all of those guys.
You already know. But being a wordsmith, that's what I was alluding to. But being a wordsmith, we all know Common is crazy with the words.
Crazy.
You being a poet, this project right here, Hero.
Yeah, man.
And I noticed how you wrote H-E-R in capital, the O in lowercase?
Yeah.
What's the symbolism in that?
So actually, the O is in uppercase. The R is in lowercase.
Okay, okay.
Right. Capital H, lowercase E, lowercase R, and big case O. You know, it's crazy. Sometimes folks, James will ask me my opinion of things. This brother interviewing me on the left side of the camera as I face the camera, and I'll turn back to him because he's an artist, and those whom I have deemed artistic enough, I often throw it back because I'm equally trying to learn from people like you. And so Grant Sullivan, who's my other writer, he's my co-writer. I just kind of beckon his thoughts.
Right.
You know, a lot like you asking me, oh, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, James, what do you think about it? So, you know, I mean, we can learn from a kindergartner, from a homeless person that rarely speaks. And equally, I can learn from fellow collaborators who tend to be extremely artistic and as deep as your mom claimed to me to be. You know what I mean? So Grant was deep enough one day to fall asleep and come up with this concept of hero actually being the reality that through a journey, through one man's work in progress. We didn't want to title it a one-man show. And we decided that with our director, Dr. Indira at Wadu, we decided to not make it a one-man show. That seemed arrogant to me. I wanted the show to be about the community. So when Grant looked at the page as we were creating this project, he said, oh, let's make it about the anti-hero and how nobody can really become a hero. And we all try as youngsters, even if it's a broken home that you come out of, you try to make somebody larger than life, usually somebody who you're birthed from, whether that be your father or your mother. And by the end of this one man's work in progress or one man's journey, we learned that for your reality, you couldn't be a hero to your kids, or namely your daughter. You could only be her. Oh.
Hey, I like that.
So that was Grant, man. Shout outs to Grant Sullivan for giving me that. He landed tonight safely, so he'll be in the audience watching this groundbreaking masterpiece of whateverness, but I believe it to be of brilliance that we're about to put on the stage, man. And that when you guys watch this video, hopefully you'll be watching in conjunction with this interview with James, this incredible one-man show. Yeah, man,
this watching you rehearse today was, you know, of course, most of us are not new to your work, your versatility as an artist, but watching you on the stage tonight, man, it was you took us on a ride. You really did take us on a ride.
That means a lot,
and it's
bro.
always cool when you can know the person and they still take you a place. And you know, when you don't really see the person anymore. You know what I'm saying? Again, like you said, I would see you tear up, go to laughter, joking. You know, and one thing I always tell people is just, even when I first met you, you came on set on a photo shoot, you remembered everyone's name, you know, just small things like that, small nuances, it keeps you apart from everyone else. So I really think that when people see this, they're gonna see a side of you they have never seen. And I really think you are creating your legacy. You know, you continue to create this legacy, and I'm excited for people to see this in 2 days. I really am, man.
That means a lot, bro. I was talking this weekend. I was in LA for the BET Awards, as you know, and my dear younger brother, like you, and I met him around the time I met you, John Burns, who runs Icon Talks. He's a young lawyer from DC. And Icon Talks become this big deal, and it's a nonprofit, and you know, he brings in artists or poets or what have you, and basically interviews them. Legends like Kathy Hughes, Jesse Jackson, and then artists, you know, and he gives you a moment to get out and he interviews you. Well, he did an Icon Talks gala in LA where he honored me and Robert Townsend. It was cool to watch my young cousin, who's 20-some years old, learn the brilliance of Robert Townsend. In Robert's acceptance speech, he was going into all those voices that you and I are very familiar with.
Yeah.
But that younger generation, again, that younger faction of my fan base are like, huh, who that?
Right.
And then they realize, or maybe I should even say we realized, when we were watching, you know, Eddie Murphy's Raw, Delirious, if you keep running the credits, it's written by Robert Townsend. So, you know, the BET Awards, well, I don't know, I guess 2 days after that, it's been a pretty special run. And then in between that, I talked to Jamel Hill from ESPN on Genius Talks, T.I. followed me. So just all these moments, and then we're capsizing with you. and not capsizing. The boat is full of float as you interview me and ask me these questions. But I got to tell you, bro, that the highlight of my last 7 days was being able to experience the BET Awards and my new director for the second time in Tyler Perry, but on this most recent film of mine, Nobody's Fool, with Tiffany Haddish and Tika Sumpter and the incredible Whoopi Goldberg, who's like a mentor. Tyler got on stage at BET Awards and he honors none other than Anita Baker, caught up in the rapture, Anita Baker, man.
Right.
And then we go downstairs, you know, and I'd already talked to Marsha Ambrosius and Adam Blackstone, but my night wouldn't have been complete if I didn't run into and talk to, which actually happened, Anita Baker, and she had a couple words for us. And Wale heard this, and J. Cole heard this, and again, Ro James and Luke James, and definitely Jamie Foxx, who was our night's host. And what we heard was her say, reach back. You know, all of you people who have gotten to a particular place in your career, whether it be acting, whether it be music, reach back and be of legacy. Like, just don't forget about people that need certain questions answered. Mm-hmm. She said there were certain people that were in my life that answered certain questions that I had, and if they hadn't, I wouldn't have become Anita Baker. That's so when she said that, I thought about it. I'm like, you know, you can't manufacture that. To me, you are who you are by the age of 16. You can get a couple people to add to it, a couple environmental shifts, some, you know, I don't know, some full moons on particular nights that might make you feel a way and might make you grow a bit into the right direction. But for the most part, I tend to think my 5- and 3-year-old that are at home right now will be pretty much set by 16. And so it was nice to feel what your point is about that personality trait of mine, to feel I was cut from the cloth of Anita Baker.
Right.
Because those are words that I would have said. You know, stand in your space firmly, knowing that people are paying attention to you, that you actually got a microphone, you know, thrusted in front of your face, and people want to know, they want to know. And if you can give them answers, then that's like answering the questions of young legends that are in the making, that you can help get to that point.
Yeah, one of the phrases, quotes that I always like to hold on to is to inspire while you aspire. And I really...
And while you perspire.
Yeah, facts.
As we sit on this hot-ass stage.
These hot-ass lights. But yeah, it's something that I try to practice. You know, like you and I talked previously, is just, if we would have, you know, we're still continuing on our journey. Mm-hmm. But in doing that, you always tend to look back and whisper a couple of words of advice and wisdom to people that, you know, have started after you. And it's, you know, we always say, it's like, man, if somebody would have done that for me, I would have been, who knows where I would have been, maybe 2 steps further ahead. But it's always like,
I wonder though.
Yeah, I mean.
I wonder, Jay. It's an overall adage, right? But it's so true. Game recognizes game. And I wonder. I know. Because game recognizes game, like people not only gravitate to like people, but they see. So when you know, tell people, oh, Omari remembered everybody's name and he greeted everybody. And for the most part, when people care about me and they take the time to really learn me, they learn how silly I am first. And I don't really give that to people unless they give me a shot. I lead with severity, right? I lead with seriousness, but I am a big ass kid. And then music studios started to see that, like, oh, this nigga's crazy. Because I could be more me, you know, I could be more me. So when I was around you, I think you see what you see in me because it's in you.
Facts.
And I saw it back. It was of reciprocity, you know. Shout outs to the incredible Lauryn Hill, who I'll always root for. Yeah. Dave East and I were talking about Lauryn recently. We were just having a great talk about Lauryn Hill, and you know, she made a song about reciprocity. And with just a guitar, she plucked at it, and it was one of the most resounding, most audible, most loudly refrained songs I've ever heard, and it's true. And so if reciprocity is the reality, but I don't necessarily know if you and I would be where we are if we had what a lot of the young people that we're giving to had. I don't know. I think that maybe part of our motivation, man, is the fact that we didn't have anything that we're now imparting upon these young people. I mean, we had it from certain people.
Yeah, of course.
I had it out of the industry, the respective industry that I'm putting food on the table doing. Mm-hmm. So Joe Dumars, incredible Joe Dumars, who would often be the only one that could hold Michael Jordan to 15 or 11 points. He's from the world of basketball, and he became very much a mentor of mine. Within the industry, but behind the camera, somebody like Salim Akil, who goes on to direct Being Mary Jane and The Game for years, and now he and his wife Mara have that incredible show that's on the network OWN.
Bam. Bam.
This is a shameless plug, but I love Oprah. Oprah knows I love her. She's very close to me.
Send
And
me a
this
check.
is not necessarily pertaining to her brand, but this is, a family's brand. I say family. This is my brother, too, and my brother Cassius, and they created Vinyl Crown. This is what we come up with, Vinyl Crown. And so it's become one of the studio homes that I definitely call my second home. But when you think about it, I don't know. I mean, the way that you and I run in life, the athlete that we will always reconnect with and pull out and remind the world that we are, I don't necessarily know if we'd have been able to break through the tape. And as you said appropriately, continuously trying to break through new tapes.
Oh, yeah.
It's constant.
This is a new venture right here for you.
Absolutely. So I don't necessarily know if God wanted it or had an intention for all of us to have the same mentorship.
Right.
And I know you would say the same thing, that you have had mentorship. I've tried my hardest to. I got so damn busy when your life started taking off.
Yeah.
But even when I'm around you, I try my hardest to mentor you in any way I can. And again, it's reciprocity. So, nigga, I ain't never not learning from you if you're learning from me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree as far as a mutual lesson sharing.
Absolutely. You're a king, bro. It's very easy to learn from kings.
Right. Appreciate that, man. Talking about wearing crowns, are you flattered when people recognize you outside of just being Ghost? Or do you expect that, Because I know actors, you have actors that have iconic roles and they're like, oh, it's, Tootie from this show. It's just like, I'm more than just that.
Right.
I'm more than just Ghost.
Jaleel White comes
Exactly.
to mind. Kim Fields, as you just said.
Exactly.
It's a great point you made. Keisha Knight Pulliam, who played my love interest, I guess my first love interest. First love interest on screen. I was in Sucker Free City and then Beauty Shop and Keisha Knight Pulliam, right? So you're right. Run up to, Rudy, for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of sorts. I think God ultimately shines a light on those that are bigger than that character. As long as the person whose talent is bigger than the character continues to not only hear God's voice, but to execute what God's voice is saying to do, which is do other things.
Right.
You got a lot of people that perhaps it's unfair maybe for us to judge them outside of the reality that perhaps their talent or their wheelhouse or their craft box or their toolbox, what have you, it only sometimes extends to the character that we know them to play. And then there's other artists who I know who definitely are more gifted than just that one character. But if they start to fall in love with actually everyone else falling in love with that character, then that's on them. They can't necessarily then be disappointed that everybody continues to call them that one character. Because they're not really working out the muscles that God has given them to show that they got more.
Yeah.
And you know me, man, I'll in Power and then get my barber to cut my hair that same night that we rap on Power.
Right.
Or I'll grow a mohawk and wear pork chop sideburns and put an eye patch on. So I think about these artists, James, and I think about the fact that some of them, I tend to know that they actually got more gift than what has been offered in this one character that not only they were able to knock out of the park, obviously, but because they were able to knock it out of the park, you got 1 million people running up to them.
Right.
Constantly calling them by that character name. And I've been around those folks when they're called, Urkel. Yeah. I remember being next to Jaleel White when he was called Urkel one time. And, he might have felt a way about it, but in reality, sometimes there's a moment, even if a brevity of moment. Yeah. I mean, we never really understand how long a brevity can be in the span of life. For us, we might think that was just a moment. It was like 1 year I fell in love with everybody calling out my character name. But it might be freaking 10 years. Yeah. Because as Jay-Z perfectly said, fame is the worst drug known to man, stronger than heroin. Look in the mirror like, there I am, and still not see what you become. So, in reality, perhaps some of them are guilty of falling in love with the character so much and the people screaming for that character that they have forgotten to not only listen to God, but at least to when listening to God, to at least extend a couple moments of stretching those gifts of muscularity and whatever else is in their wheelhouse to do and to become, so that the world can go, oh, okay, they got a little bit more going on. So,
Right.
you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Ghost, this character for the last 5, almost 6 years, has been the absolute reason that I know the world is paying attention to me. Courtney Kemp and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, the stars, and everybody, the crew, the cast, they all believed in me, and not only my talent as a lead of, hopefully, will go down as one of the great 20 dramas of all time, but they believed in my ability to lead, man, through all weather conditions and freaking cold, sleet, snow, rain, and then be a leader,
Right.
you know, be substantial, while having to be in method.
Right.
Method, you know, for
Right.
black people, method. We can't fully be in method. I've spoken about that before, but method enough to bring this guy that everybody's falling in love on Sunday nights to your couch, to your TVs in your living rooms. And so I'm proud of what I've done with Power and with Ghost, but as Jay appropriately said at home 6 years ago, she said, embrace your power and your dominion over the whole industry. So that's my attempt, just to spread my wings and embrace my power, man.
And
Before
embrace.
God asked me to fly back to him.
I dig that. Embracing your power, and embracing the characters that you may play. In doing that, you still have your name. You still are Omari. And I actually heard that someone actually said they wanted to.
Thanks, man.
I actually heard someone say that they wish that Omari could meet Omari. And I want to know what that means to you. What does that mean to you? They wish Omari could meet Omari.
You know, I remember I remember having breakfast recently with Courtney. It's hard to not remember because it was only a month ago, and Courtney Kemp being the show's creator, Power's creator, and she told me, she said, you know, Omari, I don't know if you realize, I know your intention is still good, and your heart is good, and you're fair, and you're a team player. I remember she sat there at the breakfast table and she said, you're a team player, there's no doubt about it. But I don't know if you realize how not Omari you are during the season. And I think it was really a moment of her trying to perhaps defend some people who maybe were offended. And I don't know if they would necessarily be offended if I were a white actor. You get what I'm getting at?
Yep.
But playing the most complicated character in TV, I believe, since Bryan Cranston's brilliantly portrayed Walter White, or rest in peace, James Gandolfini's Tony Soprano. But he was more straight-laced. He had about 2 colors.
Right.
Bryan Cranston definitely had more colors.
Oh yeah.
In terms of what he speckled and then tossed inside of Walter White. But James Ghost St. Patrick is a mother.
Yeah.
He's like 30 people in
Yeah.
one. We claim him to be 3 in 1, but he's about 30 people in one. So she made that comment to me, and I looked at her and I said, but would you want me to be aware of how not Omari I am during the season? And she said, no, I wouldn't want you aware.
Yeah.
So it was only maybe 2 weeks later, James, that this friend of mine said to me, oh, I wish you could meet you. It was like two weeks later, and I thought about that, and that's the reality. I don't know if I would want to meet me, because it would be counterintuitive, similar to Omari stepping outside and looking at Omari not be Omari anymore.
It's kind of like
and becoming
going back
Ghost.
in time. You don't need to interact with yourself because you'll change something.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a great way to put it,
Yeah,
James.
yeah.
I don't want to tweak anything, you know. But then again, there's a million things I want to tweak.
Right.
Oh my God, the hearts that I've broken.
Right.
I'm so freaking flawed, man. I wouldn't make any money if I wasn't flawed.
Right.
One thing about my mom, she's always embraced that. We don't always see eye to eye. I've always seen more eye to eye with my father, who in many ways has let me down. You know, he's disappointed me. But it's probably because we saw so eye to eye. Even included in that would be our actions and the way we lived our lives, in a good way. But my mother, man, even those flaws included that I speak of, she's always embraced that. So, no, I wouldn't necessarily want to change things, because even the flaws included, man, they made me who I am. I'm talking to you right now. So I guess his point was that of flattery. He was just like, you know, you're really cool to me. And I say that a lot. I say cool is an underrated word. Like is also underrated. You can love a whole bunch of people that you can't stand to be around for 5 minutes.
That is true.
Like is underrated and cool is underrated. So I was imagining that he being someone who liked me was just attempting to convey to me that if you met you, you would really like you. If that's not the most humbling thing to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, he's pretty much saying that you're a likable person, and I wanted to know,
as you said.
And what I want to know is, again, watching your vulnerability on stage, and seeing you transition from these different emotions and throughout this timeline in your life. We are all informed and taken on this ride, this journey. What I want to know is, everyone knows you have 2 children. Not sure if you plan on having any more, but what is, I'm done. What is the legacy that you want to leave for them? God forbid, but should anything happen, what is something you want them to remember? Freedom
to pursue whatever they want to pursue.
Gotta love that.
For me, James, and it's interesting you saying you gotta love it, because when I look in your eyes, I'm like, that's what I met, James. When I met you almost a decade ago, that's what I met. What I met was a young brown man that was basically asking me permission to be great. When I met you, I felt like you were saying, oh, can I be great? Can I be great? Like, not just great, because I could go be an engineer and be great. I could go be a school teacher and be great, because you're a loving, doting human being. And so as much as it's not an easy task to be a good school teacher, let alone a great one, there's certain things that you could do, like drinking water. Teaching would be one of them. You're so meticulous.
Right.
Which is how you're able to be what you are. You're very meticulous, and I read people extremely quickly. But I think you were saying, oh, can I be great in that which my grandparents never thought about doing? There was never an ancestral dream in this way.
Right.
Or in the capacity that you and I are able to dream. We never had that, bro.
We didn't.
They worked the middle of the road jobs. If we were lucky, we had a couple family members that were able to extend in the law. I was lucky enough, my father found that. Somebody could extend into medicine, but this, entertainment, even if that includes a Michael Jordan fadeaway jump shot, a Kyrie Irving crazy crossover, Draymond going 36 in the draft, and ended up signing for $80-some million going in his 3rd year because he had overachieved at a high level.
Right. Similar
to somebody like Tom Brady. The reality is I felt you were asking me permission to be great. And so when I think about, God forbid, that moment, that premature moment, like my Uncle Kenny or my big brother Kenny passing away, or my cousin Aisha being 33 years old and being called home in her Jesus year, if I were to leave this earth at a premature state of flesh being, not spirit, right, but of flesh being, I would just want Brave and Nova to feel free enough to do whatever the fuck they want to do, to be whatever they want to be, as brown kids in America, with no hesitation, no concessions, no apologies, just because I apologize for so much. My dad tried forever to get me away from apologizing. Now sometimes he asks me to apologize. Those are his issues, but in reality, I fought that. His desire for me not to be of apology with my mom's desire for me to apologize. So I lived in this world of thisness. And I don't want them to straddle the line like me. I want them to stand firm in their conviction that they can be whatever they want to be.
I remember Brave is how old now?
3.
All right, so 3 years ago.
Buffalo, he's crazy.
Yeah. 3 years ago, we're sitting in your apartment in New York.
Oh, word.
Yeah, we're sitting in your apartment in New York, and
Jay pregnant?
Yeah, that's when we did the maternity shoot. So we sitting in your apartment, and you're talking about a property you're thinking about getting. And I'm like, man, you showing me the photos. I'm like, man, this is fat, this is nice. Damn, you was like, you'll have that too, Jay. And you said, it won't only be with, like, through photography, but you'll have that. And that's something I've held on to for the simple reason, in that moment, I had never even told you all the other things that I was, down the pipeline, working on. And, so I literally hold on to that because I felt like, ironically, I had shot with you around that time. I had shot with Stephen Bishop, and he had said something that stuck out to me. And I'm like, these people don't even know what else is going on. So
Stephen Bishop worked with me on Being Mary Jane.
Yeah, it's But
That's crazy, bro.
it's one of those things where, again, you have that motivation to be whatever you want because you're surrounded by people that are choosing to walk their own path. And it motivates you. You know, they always say you got to be around people that are doing better than you. Or, yeah, exactly. You got to be inspired consistently.
Constantly.
And that's something that I always hold on to. So I realized that in that feat or that strive to have a stronger surrounding of people, that you end up accomplishing your goals in unexpected ways. It's like you always knew that you wanted to do it, but it's like, yo, I didn't know this was gonna happen this way.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man. So I definitely appreciate that, you know, because it's always interesting and appreciative when you can change someone's life in just like an indirect way. You know what I'm saying? Because that statement, you probably didn't even think anything of it.
What I think is that people walk through life not necessarily realizing that the eyes truly don't lie. And it makes me think, James, that I should say I get paid, obviously, as an actor, but that more specifically I get paid to know that my eyes don't lie. So whatever emotion I'm being asked to portray at that moment, whether it's a lie to a castmate in a scene or not, that the emotion that I'm being asked to portray, that the eyes will give way to whatever that's supposed to be. But I realize not every actor perhaps possesses that. They don't necessarily have an awareness, I should say, when I say possession. They perhaps don't possess an awareness that their eyes are speaking truths of whatever they're feeling at that moment. And I guess the antithesis, the contradiction to that would be, or the juxtaposition, excuse me, to that would be that they have a poker face.
Right.
The gift of somebody with a poker face is that their eyes actually can lie.
Right.
But I saw your eyes, bro. And I read eyes really well, and so you see somebody's eyes landing, but also of movement, and so you kind of know that whatever you're meeting them as in terms of their occupation, which is their what, not their who. Their who is their person, their constitution, the character within the character. If you were making an analogous to Omari playing characters, but their what, that being you as a photographer, a brilliant photographer. Who I remember being able to be this journalist at the same token. I was like, that's interesting. But all of that was nothing compared to what I saw there. I felt like you landed, but I also saw your plane taking off.
Yeah.
So like he's landed, which is the unapologetic ability to be like, I'm here.
Right.
And a lot of men, especially black men, can't look at another black man in the eyes and be like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And it ain't about fighting each other. It's just about, yo, I see you.
Yeah.
But yours did that, and they also had this levitation to him, and so I was like, well, he's gonna be able to do whatever he wants to do as long as, again, he keeps the proper people around him.
Right.
And houses will come, and cars will come, and all of those things, and those aren't even priority.
Yeah.
Happiness, most importantly, will come. I'm fucking always looking for happiness, man.
Yeah. That's my lifelong journey. Always happiness.
That's
Whether it be
right.
from traveling, experiencing the world.
Yeah, that's right. You
great
do travel.
food, great
you
people.
And I believe in that.
Yeah.
Travel's key,
And
especially for black people.
yeah,
In America, travel
it's
is
literally
so
changing.
imperative.
It's literally changing me.
There's so many people in this community that can't, right? It's unfair to, or it'd be a misnomer to speak about travel, but without acknowledging that so many of our fans and so many people within our community who look like you and I, they can't travel. They literally cannot travel.
Right.
Whether it be finances, whether it be physical ailment, whatever it may be,
Circumstance,
they can't travel. And so I wish, man, if I close my eyes and wish anything for everybody, particularly people that look like me and you in this country, is that all of them could take one trip away from this country.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Right.
Especially homeless people. Like if they could, one trip. And I was speaking to this journalist with the BET weekend, maybe 3 years ago, and she asked me, she said, what do brown people in America need to do more? What do African Americans need to do more? I said, travel.
Yeah.
And I remember her response was, and it was so quick. So you already know, right? When somebody doesn't really receive what you,
Right.
it's too quick of a response.
Right.
Yeah, she was like, oh, that's not easy and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember looking down at her shoes, and this is really to validate your point. I'm just validating your point, James. She had on Louboutins, And they weren't. I know, but Jay got a couple pair. We don't go crazy, but she got enough pair for me to know the price point of the different price point.
Right.
The joint she was wearing was at least the upper parts of $4,000.
Bro, you could have.
And I said it to her.
That's 3 flights.
I said it
somewhere.
I turned right to her and I said, cameras, if y'all can see underneath this table what this girl's wearing, so it's true. You make a great point. Even in terms of the hotels, some of them can actually get a five-star hotel.
That's real.
In terms of how much money they're putting into other things that shouldn't be a priority. So travel is so important. Or just learning. I mean, even if it's cultural things that we don't necessarily dive into. Ironically, theater is one of those things. Black people don't necessarily run to the theater.
That's so true, man.
So if you can learn something about something, about watching a theater show, getting your ass up and watching a theater show. One of our producers, Shaka Pilgrim, I call her a legend, but Shaka Pilgrim from Rock Nation, obviously been alongside Jay-Z for a long time. She's one of the producers for Hero, and she said to me a long time ago when we were studying to try to build this show, Shaka was in LA, which she now calls home, between here and, she's got a place in Brooklyn, but between here and LA, and she said, I'm coming back so that we can go to a theater show, which I go to all the time, but coming back, I want you to study this one particular show, and we might use some of what they're doing in their show. And sure enough, bro, 48 hours later, she got on a plane and she came back and we went to theater, and I said, man, Shaq, that's so cool that you did that. Most people don't even. And she said, growing up, and she's an island girl, but she said, growing up, my family made sure that I went to the theater, the theatre.
Right, the theatre.
And I thought, wow, that's so cool. So even if you can't travel, I always said in terms of reading a book, or in terms of going to the theater, you know how much travel's done in just those moments of you sitting there with a little light.
Read a
Even
book
when your
every
parents
month.
tell you to go to sleep.
Read a book every month.
Oh,
I have
man.
to, at least.
You're well ahead of the curve, bro, if you're doing that.
Yeah.
It's so necessary.
That's real.
That's travel, right? Figuratively speaking.
And speaking of travel and taking people on a journey, like I keep repeating, you are taking people on a journey on this show, but you're only charging $20. You got to tell everyone else what made you. Because clearly we all know if Ghost is throwing a show,
Could I charge more?
he could charge more. So it's like, why only 20?
Well, I always thought, if you're gonna be of journey, right, and you're actually gonna be of journey and not be false in it. You are on stage and you're speaking to a crowd, 200 people to 300 people. If you were at the infamous, Apollo Theater in Harlem, it'd be a lot more people. But whatever it is, you're actually asking people. And as you appropriately asked me at the beginning of the interview, you said, Omari, or in the middle of the interview, you said, Omari, what do you feel about people calling you Ghost? Is it complimentary? Do you not like it? Are you surprised when they say it? Are you not surprised? You expect them to say Omari? But the reality is, if I am aware that Ghost is such an ominous figurine next to me, and if he's 35 feet wide, and I definitely believe I go to sleep at night aware. Let me rephrase that. I know that I go to sleep at night aware that I am 75 feet wide if Ghost is 35 feet wide. The reality is the start of that width, of that range in me, that stretchability, that flexibility, the various colors that are inside of me that people are not necessarily akin to, or not aware of. It started on stage, man. It started here, and it started in terms of my life journey on a stage where I found myself broke and living in cars. And I started thinking about the fact that if I were given an opportunity, whether it was living in South Central, where I lived in LA, or Normandy in Vermont, when I lived in Little Korea, or Decatur, where I grew up, even though Pops and Moms definitely made a better life for us than what I found in my adult life when I was struggling to become an artist, or in Athens, Georgia, when I was just trying to figure out some meals if it weren't for the meal plans of being a college football player. The reality is I couldn't have paid but maybe $10 to $15 to go to watch a Mos Def on stage.
Right.
An incredible stage actor like Jeffrey Wright. Or Denzel Washington in his return to theater. Pauletta Washington flew me out to watch Denzel play Brutus in Caesar. And then this is some irony for you, James. One day, Caesar, who was played by William Sadler, is on a show called Power. And he's Joseph Shakur's Tommy's father.
That's crazy.
And he's incarcerated with Omari Hardwick's James St. Patrick in the same scenes. That's the guy that plays Caesar.
Right.
Where he's the top billed. I mean, Denzel's the top billed because it's Denzel, but
Right.
Caesar, the play, is about this guy. And so when you think about that journey and the extension of that, and the fact that when I come out broke on Pauletta's dime to watch Denzel play Brutus next to a guy that plays Caesar, then that guy one day is in my show.
Yeah.
I was broke when she flew me out.
Yeah.
Now William Sadler, who plays Caesar, he's in my show.
That's how the universe works.
So how do you reach back, as you said, to the community? The band on stage will be of the community Friday night. The people in the audience will be of the community. We're in a place that raised Biggie Smalls, my Aunt Geraldine, who's the first aunt to fly, or first family member, I should say, to fly away from Savannah, Georgia at 18, now 75 years of age, and calls Brooklyn her home. She lived right around the corner forever before she, transported herself to Crown Heights, which is still in Brooklyn. I can't be of this community and walk down the street and know that the people who really, really want to learn who Omari is and the beginnings of who Omari is, I couldn't walk with my head held high or feel a level of pride if I knew that I charged them that which they can't afford.
Right.
That would be stupid. It's counterintuitive to having them jump on the train with me at the inception of when my train took off.
Right.
$20. Come on, man. Hang out. Watch me. Let's make it theater in the round. Let's make it about the community so everybody can afford $20. Hell, I'll give you $20. I can give at least 100 people $20 to come to the show.
Let me hold some.
You got it.
Yo.
So that's why we did it, bro. $20.
I respect that. I respect that, man. It's again, anybody watching this interview is gonna hear some gems that you're dropping, man. So I want to say,
love y'all, man. Really humble.
Yeah, I want to say
Really humble.
thank you for taking the time to talk to me, to talk to the cameras.
Of course, man.
Thank you for opening up your heart, your world to the stage that you're about to put the show on.
Thank you, Jay.
Much success to all that you have coming to you, man, in the future, man. And yeah, can't wait to see you.
My brother. They can't